Welcome to the Hamlet Podcast. This is the official podcast of the Cheerful Hamlets student theatre. This is Helena and I will be hosting today's episode. My guest today is Professor Klaudia Łączyńska, lecturer at the Faculty of English Studies at the University of Warsaw. She specializes in 17th century drama and theatre, and she is the Cheerful Hamlets supervisor. Welcome, Professor.
Okay, hello. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
Thank you very much for agreeing to come. Today we'll be talking about Shakespeare's impact on society and people individually as well. First question I would like to ask, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what are your academic interests?
As you said, I specialize in 17th century. I think more in poetry than really in drama, though it's very difficult to separate these two things. Mm-hmm. However, recently I apart from 17th century, I really like reading, even writing sometimes about 20th, 21st century poetry, and I very much like doing contemporary drama, especially in my courses.
Great. Okay, good to know. Do you think then that Shakespearean drama has the same impact on us today as it had during his times? And which themes do you think are perceived the same way? Which ones have changed? And
this is really a difficult question. First of all, I'm not really sure whether we can say something about what impact Shakespeare had on his contemporaries. Definitely he had to make good plays and entertain his audiences, sometimes probably changing things from one performance to another in order to make the audience happy. I really can't say, I really can't measure this impact, but the fact that we still stage Shakespeare, that Shakespeare is still staged and so popular, and functioning also in somehow in popular culture as well, not only in professional theatres. But I think yes, the impact is still great, and but I'm not sure whether we can really measure it or compare it. You asked about themes, topics.
Well, I mean, how could it have been perceived? Because we have those very general or ultimate topics that are always associated with humanity, and love, war, conflict, stuff like that. But there are also very specific things that we cannot really we cannot really we don't kill our wives, for example. You know what I mean?
Oh no, come on! Murders of passion are still very much.
Generally we don't. I know that people didn't used to do it as well, but the whole king drama, it was more on time during his times, right? Then nowadays we don't have kings and queens and so on.
That's true. Okay, so I think what is difficult for us to really read and understand in Shakespeare's are all those topical things that are somehow referred to. Some religious conflicts, for example. Shakespeare makes a lot of jokes. For example, on Jesuits, as in you have it in Macbeth. So probably these would be things that would be more difficult for contemporary audience to really follow in Shakespeare's plays. As for murders, I'm not sure if this is really something that only Shakespeare's audience could somehow enjoy watching on stage. As to monarchy, kings and queens, yes, true. Arthur Miller, in his essay, wrote that nowadays we really need a different type of hero. Yeah, so a more common man as a hero of tragedy. But I think it is still possible to adapt Shakespeare's plays in such a way that you do not see really a king or a queen or but for example a politician. If you look, for example, at some adaptations of Julius Caesar or of Coriolanus, who can be a soldier, for example, in modern sense. So I think it's not a barrier for us to stage Shakespeare.
I feel that sometimes as well, nowadays, some people would say that the general perception is that people who are still discussing Shakespeare are doing it only to show that they are high cultured. Do you think that everything about Shakespeare has already been said and discussing it is just for the sake of the discussion itself, or do you think it's still fruitful to talk about it?
Depends whether you speak about academic criticism. The history of Shakespeare criticism shows that practically it's Shakespeare is always somehow productive, fruitful in when you write, when you study, interpret, and somehow the criticism of Shakespeare changes together with all the waves of criticism. So you can have psychoanalytical Shakespeare, you can have cultural materials Shakespeare, you can have you can have post-humanist Shakespeare. So I think it's as long as we want to write about Shakespeare, and Shakespeare is really a great source of themes and interests, there will be something to write about. So when you think about talking about Shakespeare, it's, I don't think it's if it is only associated with some high culture. It's, Shakespeare is very much nowadays very much a popular culture figure. Topic in popular culture.
Yeah, I actually think that's very interesting that we, general perception is that, like, I would say, like, not over in academic interest, but like generally by population, he is considered like this high culture and being. You have to be even maybe a little bit snobbish to discuss, like, to discuss Shakespeare like that. But during his times, he was definitely what we would call today pop culture, right? And
definitely so. Yeah. When you think about Elizabethan theatre, yes, it's. Anyway, I'm not sure if we can talk about this kind of pop culture and high culture at that time. Really. Definitely, there would be it. For me, it is more a popular culture would be more like something that is available for general audience, while at the same time you have more like courtly exchanges of poetry, which would not be accessible to everyone. But I'm not sure whether, because poets who wrote plays for public theatre also wrote poems for their patrons that were exclusively for their patrons. So I don't know if we can really make such a distinction, or if we can apply such a distinction to Shakespeare's times. It's more our way of thinking about culture, which is, I think, already changing. It's not what we still think about this, that there can be such a division.
Do you think then that we are going to see the current movies and films and art in general be academically discussed and analyzed in like not we, but like, you know, in future as a society, like for example, Avengers, which is like the pop culture of.
But they are discussed, aren't they? I can't give you any titles of academic papers on Avengers, but I'm sure there are some scholars doing popular culture, which was something introduced with especially new historicist or cultural materialist studies, is that we are interested in all types of cultures, especially that popular culture. So. Not only will they be discussed, but they are already discussed.
Yeah, I know. But what I meant is like the same way as we're discussing Shakespeare nowadays. You know, like that is like the sign of the times of today, of the let's say the era right nowadays.
It very much depends. If there is something in Marvel series. That would remain until very distant future, as there is something in Shakespeare that is still somehow relevant. If I don't know really if there is something that
speaks to people.
Yes, if there is something that will speak to people, I don't know, in 50 years. If there is something in those movies that will speak to people in 50 years, why not? They will talk about it. I can't tell you really if there is. I did not think about that. I rather just simply enjoyed watching. Yes.
Do you think that historical theatre, so Shakespeare and those kind of let's say plays of the past, still have its place in the popular culture nowadays?
But do you mean that they are staged in? You mean popular? First of all, what do you mean by popular culture?
Popular culture, like
theater, cinema.
The thing is, I think that theater is not exactly pop culture, right? Because we are actually people are more likely to go and enjoy a movie as like an everyday thing to go and enjoy. So
I think people now enjoy more Netflix than really cinema or theater. Yeah. And if you have Shakespeare on Netflix, definitely people will watch Shakespeare. No, of course. By the way, I don't know if there's Shakespeare on Netflix. I have never looked at.
Pretty sure there are so many themes of, like for example, whenever I watch some kind of movie, I love seeing that the references to some plays. Like I've been seeing so many references to Richard that I would never have gotten if I didn't like take a part in it and actually know by heart many lines from it. So that's so interesting that there's in like movies where people most likely wouldn't get it, people who analyze Shakespeare and watch it are able to, let's say, nerd out to it, because you can hear you can take the reference and be like, oh, I know it, you know. It's very interesting.
But you said that you asked if young people nowadays can be somehow more interested in Shakespeare because they prefer to go to the cinema or even maybe watch a Netflix series. It very much depends on what you do with Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I think this approach to Shakespeare that you can have in those old BBC productions, I'm not sure if it can really be interesting to people nowadays. It depends what idea you have for Shakespeare, and I think Shakespeare's comedies definitely will still be great romantic comedies, and the scheme that they have will be the scheme of all the romantic comedies that you watch nowadays. It depends what you do with Shakespeare.
And I think that some people would say that maybe we should concentrate more on the modern plays as they could be more relevant to our current society and its issues. Do you think that this statement has truth in it? You know, like, is that a good way of looking at this thing.
You mean a modern plays written nowadays? Yes, the plays written nowadays, and concentrate. But by concentrate, concentrate, you mean that they should be staged more often?
Mm-hmm.
I think they are. And maybe in
or even exclusively. You know, that we should maybe give it up and let's make it more interesting.
I don't like this way of this approaching theater that you have to make something. Tell people, do exclusively this or that. That's not really a free theater, and it's not. If someone wants to do Shakespeare, let them do Shakespeare. If they at the same time, and I'm sure that there will be directors that do Shakespeare and those that do Beckett and Pinter, and even I don't know, maybe even Sarah Kane at the same time, or somehow can be interested in all these playwrights and all these plays. I wouldn't say, do exclusively this or that, because that would be very much against the freedom of the artist.
But do you think they have more relevancy to the current issues, the plays that are, or can we still find a lot of themes that could be applied to today's day and age?
Okay, Helena, I will ask you a question. What are the current issues that are only current issues, as exclusively current issues?
Well, I'm talking about more like a current issue that has been, for example, the isolation. For example, we let's even before the pandemic, there has been we have been talking about how people have been isolating more and more, but at the same time we are more connected because of the internet. So the internet is a very big thing of nowadays, you know, like for example,
yes. So, I agree that there are some issues that definitely, but of course, I can find a number of plays where 17th century plays where you can talk about showing which you can really somehow refer to isolation. I love Webster's plays, are a very good example of plays that somehow show that an individual that is isolated somehow. Or excluded. But definitely something, the issue that is, that I notice is very much present in some of the plays I've recently seen or discussed. It would be ecology and this ecological crisis. I'm not really sure if I like this issue somehow, or maybe how it is raised in the theater. Yes, 2 days ago I watched this play in virtually again online, a play by in Teatr Powszechny. The Polish title is Jak ocalić świat na małej scenie. The English can be How to Save the World, and it combines some individual, 3 individual stories of the past, the stories of the sons tell us stories about their fathers, in the context of the global changes of climate and how and there is this, at the end, there is this very angry monologue against us human beings, what we are doing, how crazy we are in what we are doing, destroying ourselves. And so it is definitely a current issue.
I find it very interesting because I feel like that kind of puts a fault on the individual for the problem of the climate change, where I probably would argue that the fault, it's not like we are not individually not faulty and we cannot do anything, but it's not in our hands, it's in the hands of the big players to solve this problem, really.
That's why I really, when the actress was pointing at me with her finger, I felt, come on,
what can I do?
But on the other hand, this is of course how I guess that the role, that the aim of that performance was to somehow make people aware, and the more people you make aware, that this will also somehow, or maybe may exert some pressure on bigger companies, some
make people feel to, so people can pressure the companies. The more people are aware, the more people can.
That's probably the idea. However, because the spectacle somehow, on the one hand, I felt that it accused humans of those mistakes and years of making mistakes. But at the same time, it showed that it is human beings who are the only chance for Earth. That is, in order to save, yes, because the question is how to save, yes, and there wasn't really any answer. But I see that in a number of plays, like, I don't know, Caroline Duffy's Everyman, where there is also this scene with hurricane, and there's a lot of ecology or some kind of eco-apocalypse going on in some modern plays that I don't think you can really find in Shakespeare in that way, or that you can really even, or maybe you can, I don't know, maybe there will be some director who will do Shakespeare in such a way that you can have some kind of eco-apocalypse in Shakespeare.
Definitely not doing Shakespeare as Shakespeare did it, but we're doing Shakespeare. As a last question, generally, when you are watching a theatrical performance, what do you look for it to be interesting to you? One feeling, one idea. What is satisfying in a theatrical performance?
Oh my God, that's really a very difficult question, because usually there is not one thing that I'm looking. And anyway, I never come to theater looking for something special, because then, of course, I would be if that were my approach, I would probably be. I would have been disappointed constantly because the theater did not give me what I wanted. Yeah. But definitely some. I like professionalism. I don't know if it's.
That's a good answer.
I like when things are done really, really professionally. When I see that there is really a lot of thought given to things to when thinking this spectacle over, that there is great effort, actors' effort, even though it of course it should look effortlessly on stage, but you
can tell there is effort put into it.
I think that's the source of that satisfaction, that you see that people really worked hard and really thought well what they want to say, how they want to show it, and they worked on. And I really like when all details are worked well. Music, apart from acting, also music, light, stage movement, the props, decorations. If all these things are really well prepared and somehow done with effort and professionally, I think this is also something that gives this final satisfaction of watching the play, no matter what play it is.
Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wish you good luck with your staging, and especially staging Shakespeare. But remember, it's not only Shakespeare.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for listening to us. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and follow the Cheerful Hamlets on Facebook and Instagram. Hear you in the next episode.